Hello fellow gut nerds, and welcome to another episode of How to Build a Healthy Gut. Today we're going to discuss how people eating seemingly polar opposite diets somehow manage to both see improvements in their gut health. So what do I mean by this? Whether you're talking about chatting it up with a friend who's just lost some weight or switched their diet from standard American diet to plant-based or standard American diet to carnivore, or you're reading people's testimonials on social media, you will find that people somehow are able to improve their gut health dramatically by switching to basically any type of diet, whether you're talking plant-based, carnivore, keto, or what have you, Mediterranean, which is kind of a more popular pattern these days. So how can these people who are eating completely different diets see these improvements? Well, the first thing we have to take into consideration is generally they're moving from a standard American diet, which is high in processed food, high in junk food, high in sugar, fat, low in fiber. Not that fiber is absolutely essential to a healthy gut, but it certainly does seem to point to fiber being beneficial. So when people switch to these dietary paradigms, they're generally jumping out of a completely garbage diet. Another thing that switching to one of these different diets does is it actually creates routine. In our previous video, we discussed the importance of routine, particularly how it surrounds the microbiome. The microbiome is going to adapt to routine and become more stable when your routine is stable. So when you initially moving from a standard American diet, your routine really isn't a routine, it's mostly chaos. So when you switch from chaos to routine, your microbiome is able to adapt and it starts to kind of build towards that routine, and the whole goal is to help you get the most out of that routine. You're going to see changes in gut health, and that's going to be whether you switch to a plant-based diet or an animal-based diet. Another thing is when you switch to these different kind of popular paradigms, paleo, keto, carnivore, plant-based, what you're doing is you're removing processed foods from your diet, and that can have a huge beneficial effect on gut health. Processed foods contain emulsifiers, which can erode the mucus layer and cause intestinal inflammation. And they also have preservatives. The point of preservatives is to inhibit bacterial growth so the food maintains shelf stability. But putting that into your gut isn't necessarily a good thing. It can have some negative effects on your microbiome because, these preservatives can also limit the growth of beneficial bacteria as well. Another thing that happens when people switch to these diets is they generally become super compliers, meaning in addition to following the diet and they begin seeing beneficial effects, they also cut out other things like alcohol and snacking and things of that nature. Next, calorie restriction generally has a beneficial effect on the gut. This is because by decreasing the amount of food that enters your gut, especially if you're going from a state of overeating, you're going to see decreases in inflammation, both in the gut and in systemic inflammation as well. There's also some evidence in humans, overweight women to be specific, that calorie restriction to around 500 or 600 calories per day can actually improve intestinal permeability, and that happened independent of weight loss. What happened is they cut their calories, they saw improvements in their intestinal permeability. In other words, their gut became quote unquote less leaky, and then when they started consuming more food, even though they hadn't gained back any weight, there was an increase in that permeability. That indicated that it wasn't weight loss that caused a decrease in permeability. It was the decrease in calorie intake. And moving right along to weight loss, generally people, when they adopt one of these dietary routines, they also lose some weight. Losing weight has many beneficial effects on our body, including reducing inflammation, as previously mentioned, as well as decreasing intestinal permeability, improving liver function, improving metabolism throughout the body, and things of that nature. So as you can see, it's not necessarily which diet that people fall into. It's more that they are falling into a routine. They're cutting out processed foods, they're losing weight, they're becoming healthier overall, and that improves gut health as well. Now, it's important to point out, the diet that works best for you is going to be individual to you. If you don't really like plants, then you're probably going to shift more towards animal-based. And if you don't really care that much for eating animals or have some ethical objection, you'll move towards plant-based. Color Me team omnivore generally eat a more Mediterranean-style diet, although there's no real definition behind that. So that's about it. Thanks for listening in, and if you have any questions, pop them down in the comment section below. Take care.